This podcast is for the ones who know they were rescued, but also know they were resent, saved by grace, sent to live different. We're not rebelling against God. We're rebelling against everything that keeps us from Him. And every day, we don't swing our opinions. We sharpen our lives on the Word of God, the sword of the Spirit, guiding us, cutting through lies, and leading us one step at a time. We'll talk faith, identity, purpose, leadership, and what it really looks like to follow Jesus in a distracted world. Welcome to the Daily Rebel. Yo, what up, Daily Rebels? Here we go. Title of today is You Don't Owe Your Flesh Anything. So Romans chapter 8, verse 12, it says this. So then, brothers and sisters, we are not obligated to the flesh to live according to the flesh. So here we go. Today, we're going to talk about the war with the flesh, because a lot of believers are still living like sin owns them. We're still bowing to cravings. We're still feeding our compromise, or even we're acting like the flesh has authority over us. Romans 8 says something powerful. We are not obligated to the flesh, meaning the flesh no longer owns you. Sin no longer has legal authority over believers. You are no longer enslaved to it. Listen, the flesh still speaks, but it no longer rules. And some of you need to hear this clearly. You do not owe your old life continued obedience. You heard that? You do not owe your old life continued obedience. Imagine someone finally escaping slavery, only to voluntarily walk back into those chains. That's been kind of our analogy this week. But Jesus broke the chains. But that's what compromise looks like spiritually. It's going back into them. But Jesus broke those chains. He opened the prison. He paid the price. But many believers keep revisiting the cell God already freed them from. But freedom is available, but the flesh still tries to negotiate control. And a lot of followers of Jesus think freedom means things like temptation disappears, or cravings vanish, or struggles just automatically end instantly. And I don't know who lied to them, because Paul literally in Romans chapter 7 says, all the things that I don't want to do, I do. And the things that I do, I don't want to do. He's like, no, there's a real struggle here. And Romans 8:1 doesn't say there's no more temptation, there's no more struggle. He says there's no condemnation. So temptation is still going to be there. But it teaches something different. The flesh still fights. Cravings still speak. Temptation still exists. But now you have a choice. Because before Christ, sin ruled you. But after Christ, sin just fights you. There's a difference between being attacked by sin and being owned by it. Paul says we are not obligated. That word carries this idea of debt or ownership, or sometimes a sense of legal obligation or bondage. Paul is saying believers no longer owe the flesh continual loyalty. Before Jesus, sin dominated your life. Man, flesh controlled you and spiritual bondage ruled you. But through the cross, ownership changed. You are no longer under the authority of the flesh. The cross canceled the debt your flesh once demanded. I'm going to say it again. The cross canceled the debt your flesh once demanded. You may still hear the voice of the flesh, but you no longer belong to it. So stop feeding what Jesus died to free you from. I'm going to give y'all 3 points. Number 1, the flesh makes empty promises. And I've said this many times, that sin over-promises and under-delivers. Sin always promises more than it delivers. The flesh will always tell you that this will satisfy you. This moment of pleasure will make you happy. This won't hurt you. Just one more time. But sin never delivers what it promises. It leaves you guilty. It leaves you frustrated. It leads you, if you're a Christian, it should lead you to remorse. See, sin may entertain temporarily, but it enslaves eventually. That's why people stay trapped in lust and bitterness, addiction, greed, pride, and compromise, because the flesh keeps promising satisfaction while producing emptiness. Sin is a terrible master. The flesh always takes more than it gives. What begins as pleasure often becomes bondage. And what begins casually often becomes controlling, because sin never stays small. The flesh promises freedom while building chains. So what compromise keeps promising satisfaction while slowly destroying your freedom? Number 2, freedom requires starvation. Here's what I mean. Stop feeding destructive cravings. Whatever you feed grows. Whatever you starve weakens. And the flesh survives where compromise gets fed consistently. Some believers, we want spiritual victory while constantly feeding our flesh with toxic, corrupt entertainment. Or maybe we're looking at lustful content. Or maybe we're bitter towards somebody and we can't let it go, or ungodly relationships, or compromise, or some type of spiritual laziness. Then wonder why the flesh feels strong. Well, stop feeding what's killing you. Freedom grows where compromise starves. You cannot consistently feed lust and expect to be holy. When you feed bitterness, you can't expect peace. When you feed compromise, you can't expect spiritual strength. The flesh gains power through repetition. So what you tolerate, again, will eventually dominate. So let me ask you this. What are you feeding right now that's weakening your spiritual life? Number 3 is you don't belong to your old life. The cross changed ownership. The cross did more than forgive you. It transferred ownership. But I need you to hear that again. You don't belong to your old life anymore. Before Jesus, sin owned you. Flesh ruled you. Bondage controlled you. I like to tell teenagers a lot when I travel and preach camps, like, hey, when you go back, if you've been changed by grace through faith, your old friends and your old life is going to be waiting, but you got to remind them that that old life is dead. That's not who you are anymore, because salvation changed your identity completely. You now belong to King Jesus, your body, your mind, your future, your life. You cannot belong fully to Jesus while continuing to live fully for the flesh. You are not your addiction, your cravings, your past, your compromise. You belong to the King who conquered death. The cross broke the contract your flesh once held over your life. The flesh still calls your name, but it no longer holds your chains. This is why believers fight differently now. Not for acceptance, not for salvation, but from a victory already won in Jesus. So listen, y'all, where are you still living like your old life owns you? Jesus didn't just die to forgive you. He died to free you from the slavery to it. So listen, you don't owe your flesh another day of obedience. Stop revisiting chains Jesus already broke. Listen, the flesh may still fight, but through Jesus, it no longer rules. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Before you go, if you want to help other people be equipped to be redeemed rebels, give us a follow and share it around with your friends. We'll see you next time.